Friends, today let me talk to you about the mystery of the cross. Jesus, death on the cross is a greatest mystery of God no one can understand fully. Cross is made of wood, one parallel in position and other vertical in position. Vertical piece of wood is longer than the horizontal wood on cross. So the vertical piece is basically holding the horizontal piece. Cross is therefore made of two woods, and God made two humans, Adam and Eve. But he joined both into one bond, as wife and husband. Friends, the very concept of two human beings joining together, we call it a marriage. This bond is the ultimate union of two souls into one. This is God's maths. Here 1 plus 1 does not become 2, but remains 1. God made Adam the big boss, the vertical wood, and Eve, his companion, the horizontal wood. So the husband holds and controls the wife. Husband is therefore the head of the family, as wife being a quicker vessel. If this union has to be in harmony, wife has to submit to her husband in Christ, thus two souls becoming one in Christ. This is the perfect union of love that God has made. At the cross, God manifested this union of his love towards you and me, restoring the bond between God and man. Through cross, God made reunion with you and me. The cross, friends, is the ultimate paradox of the Christian faith. It stands as the brutal symbol of the world's cruelty and the immense suffering of Christ. Yet at the very same time, it is the definitive proof of God's relentless and unbreakable love for humanity. The symbol of suffering. The cross represents the physical agony and spiritual weight that Jesus bore. Isaiah 53:3 describes him as a man of suffering and familiar with pain. He endured this to pay the penalty for sin, 1 Peter 2:24. The symbol of God's unbreakable love. The cross is the ultimate demonstration that God's love pursues us despite our failures. Romans 5:8 declares, "But God demonstrates his own love for us in this: while we were still sinners, Christ died for us." This act was not because we were lovable, but because his love is unchanging and sacrificial, famously summarized in John 3:16. In summary, the cross shows us that God's love is so profound that he was willing to enter into human suffering to rescue us. Here is a more detailed explanation of the paradox of the cross as both a symbol of profound suffering and the ultimate demonstration of God's unbreakable love. The cross as the symbol of suffering, physical and spiritual. To understand the cross, we must first confront the reality of what it represented in the first century. It was not a piece of jewelry or a decorative emblem. It was the ancient world's most cruel and humiliating form of execution, reserved for the worst criminals and rebels. The process was designed to maximize pain and prolong death. Before the crucifixion itself, Jesus was scourged, flogged, a brutal beating that tore the flesh from his body, Matthew 27:26. He was then forced to carry the heavy crossbeam, the patibulum, to the execution site, though he was so weakened he needed help, Mark 15:21. On the cross, he endured the agony of nails driven through his wrists and feet, the excruciating pain of hanging by his own weight, the struggle for every breath, and eventual death by suffocation or heart failure. The Bible verse, Psalm 22:14-16, written centuries before, prophetically describes this suffering. "I am poured out like water, and all my bones are out of joint. My tongue sticks to the roof of my mouth. A band of evil men has encircled me. They have pierced my hands and my feet." The physical pain, while immense, was not the deepest suffering. The true agony was spiritual. Jesus, who was sinless, took upon himself the sin of the entire world. This created a separation from God the Father for the first time in all eternity. This is why he cried out in Matthew 27:46, my God, why have you forsaken me?" This cry reveals the depth of his suffering. He experienced the spiritual death and separation from God that is the ultimate consequence of sin. The cross was where he became a curse for us, as stated in Galatians 3:13. Christ redeemed us from the curse of the law by becoming a curse for us. The cross as the symbol of God's unbreakable love. If the story ended with the suffering and death, the cross would only be a symbol of tragedy. But the Christian faith declares that the cross is also the very place where love was most powerfully displayed. This love is not a feeling or an emotion. It is an action. Human love is often a response to something lovely or deserving in another person. But God's love is different. He loved us not when we were good, but when we were at our worst. Romans 5:8 puts it powerfully. But God clearly shows and proves his own love for us by the fact that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. His love immeasurable, unshakable, and unbreakable love of God that chose to endure it for us.